Hi guys, welcome back to MK Sportscars. We are now on with part 3 of the Sport 200 build here. So it's the Hayabusa powered car. If you've been subscribing, you would have seen what's been going on. And first off, we're going to talk about this, the engine power plant. So what we're going to do now, hang over to the bench and show you some of the details on the engine, how we get this in there. Right, here we have a Gen 2 Hayabusa engine we've fitted into that chassis, but I'm going to talk with some of the modifications that goes through here. So first up is, obviously on a motorbike normally you have a chain sprocket. We then have this adapter that's bolted on using the original standard nut, and it's a PCD is correct for our drive shaft. They are different between Gen 1 and Gen 2 and other bike engines. It's not all the same sprocket because the spline's different. So this gets bolted on, ready to take on your prop shaft. Second thing, right next to it here, now there is different variations of this. This is the clutch slave, so it's a hydraulic clutch slave. Do a couple of different options. If you're going wet sump, which is what this is, because the pan's wet and it's full of oil, then you're maintaining the original water pump from the bike. You can see it's spaced off to clear this particular pump. This is in the kit anyway, so it has the spacers and the bolts all accommodated in there. And then if you want to go to a dry sump, this pump is removed and it's blanked off, because then you're running a standalone electric water pump wherever you want in its location. Then we move this closer inwards, and it has a different shaft that connects here from the clutch slave right away through there to the other side where the clutch is in there. So there's two different variations. You can use this one as well and get away with it, but nicely tucked in when it's the dry sump. But the wet sump one, 3 bolts, pretty simple. Little banjo fitting, it will fit on here, that will go off to, from here will go to your clutch slave pedal. And then you have this water pump here, which will connect from here up to this particular thermostat housing, which has got to be mounted because we've got to put the thermostat in now. So that's the first section. Next up in the mounting here, we've got the engine cradle. Now, 2 parts of it, i.e. what are these fixings here, are already mounted in the chassis. A bit like this, but a bit better. This is just a cradle to hold the engine, and it will fit through on these two with these 2 long bolts. And then the newer version has this single arm which comes out to the chassis rail here, which bolts in. So these get bolted in. These are M10 by 1.25 by 70 mil bolts that go in there, and they have a bushing, a rubber bushing, and a metal insert that goes in there, a crush tube in there for you as well. They get mounted. It's much easier to mount these now, because when you're putting it in the vehicle, you've got something nice and easy to grab hold of if another person has got this side. Trying to do it on your own, I definitely recommend this is a 2-man job, because it's around the sort of 90 kilo weight distribution wise. Up here we've got the standard throttle bodies on here, and we've just fitted our air filter, and under here you've got the trumpets, all fitted from the bike as standard. Now Gen 2 has even ones, and Gen 1 has 2 longer centres normally. We recommend obviously just going straight in with the 4 straights. This filter will sit underneath, and then it will clear under the bonnet scoop as well if you're running the Sport 200 model. Now I'm going to spin the engine round and show you a couple of other more details. Under here we have the billet sump pan that's fitted, getting rid of the standard one. It's a nice direct replacement fit. Comes with all the fittings you need in the box anyway. And then you've got the 2 fittings here for your takeoffs for your out and in return on the oil pan here. These are AN10-10 fittings. New filter comes in the box as well. And what we normally recommend is you have a Jubilee clip that goes around this, and it will stop to there. We haven't done it yet, and it stops on there, tightens up so that that filter cannot undo. It's a good recommendation. Now on this side here, you have got a dipstick. Now this comes in the kit as well. It's an exchange basis. This is the Gen 2 breather system that goes in there, and then you have a nice dipstick to check your oil level. It's got a couple of markings like a normal conventional car. Makes life a lot simpler. You bolt that on instead. If you've got a Gen 1, then you can purchase them as an outright purchase as well, but it's a modification. It's machined up, really nice bit of kit, and really helps do that. Inside the engine here, what we've done as well, so it's best to do this if you're buying a second-hand engine, you've seen it all running, you've taken it out a bite, that's fine. But if not, recommend you take them out, soak the clutch plates, check them for tolerances. You don't want to get it all in the vehicle and that be a failure. So I'd recommend checking the clutch plates, making sure that they're gapped up to tolerances. And if they are, then soak them in the nice clean oil that you're going to be putting into the engine. So that's making sure they're lubricated. I'm going to summarise now for a couple of little jobs that you may want to do while it's out of the car. You can put them when it's in it as well. A couple of little jobs here, which is this one, which is we put into here the oil temperature sensor for the oil in the pan, and then here you've got your standard pressure switch, which you can come off of there, or this particular gallery for your oil pressure sensor. So depending on what instruments and gauges you're using, these two galleries are very useful for that particular tool and measuring it up. You can ignore the sight glass now. This is not really required because the dipstick does that job for you. Right, here we are over the car now, showing you the engine in situ. As you can see, I wanted to show you that because engine cradle version 1, this was cut car number 2, we have changed it. This is a full support bar. We changed it, made it much easier to fit, much more easier to service if you ever want to change the engine or drop it out. No issues there. Next thing, we've dropped it onto the ground. That's no problem now. We've geoed the car, got 1 wheel toe out and 1 wheel toe in on the rear. Got it all set up, all the ride heights done, and there'll be some final tweaks once the rest of the weight goes on the vehicle. But we've got a good base setting somewhere to start with. As you probably remember from last week, oil lines, coolant, radiators all plumbed in, all of this side of it, the engine. Now there's two different variations. We do the billet throttle bodies. We showed you on the engine the standard Gen 2 boosters. These are the billet throttle bodies, and you have this here with a tapered one. This will fit under the flat bonnet, and then you can run a fuel pressure sensor which plugs in there. That's your fuel pressure sensor, plugs in the end of the fuel rail, and the main fuel rail feed is at the other end coming in with the injectors and everything else. So this is a nice setup. The billet setup really looks smart, but it also allows you to run the flat bonnet, which is, if that's your preference. Moving through in the vehicle, showed you the sprocket adapter. The prop shaft's attached down here. It's a 2-piece prop. We have a centre bearing just here, which gets bolted into the side panel, and then running along, which we showed last week, to the rear where the Sierra diff, where you've got the reverse motor and reverse sprocket bolted in, and these are two bolts to hold that in and just lining up there. Handbrakes all in etc. here with 2 bolts, and your half moon for adjusting that, pulling it up and down, not an issue, and you can do the final adjustment once that's in. Then we'll move on to interior panels here. How do you fit those? It's pretty simple. They're a laser cut piece that already pre-comes done, and we use a 4mm rivet, and these are already there. You just have to drill these into the chassis using a 4mm rivet. Definitely recommend using some sealant around all the chassis to stop any kind of panel vibration, otherwise you will get some vibration come through. That can be quite annoying. So make sure you adhesive this first, leave it about 15 minutes before you put the panel on, just so it gets a light skin over the bead. So you bead it along, let it have a light skin, then push the panel on. It would definitely help seal it and also stop the panel vibration. And that's for this particular panel, which is the back panel, and the 2 rear interior side panels. And this has a top which will go over the top here. Again, you'll have fixings on the side on there. This is the older one, but we're putting a new one on. Same principle will apply. Right, next up will be some wiring, which you're going to run a wiring loom through here. First, that's a pretty simple job. It's cable tied in place. But then the next big job, bodywork. Bodywork's arrived, so if you tune in next time for part 4, you'll get to see how we do a trial fit and final fit of the bodywork to give you that idea, guys. Right, that's it for part 3 of the Sport 200 build, guys. I'm sure you've got some questions, and we'd quite happily take them or put them in the comments below, and we can fill them in on answer to, or fire us on an email, Facebook Messenger, or hook us up with a phone call. Come and see us at the factory. You can see what's going on with the build. That's it for this week, guys. Check us out next time for the next video. Press up to like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time.